All right, so we're going to get started. It looks like we have quite a few participants. So this is great. So welcome to the virtual firm night for the 2020 fall recruiting season. Obviously, most of you felt, well aware recruiting season is going to look very different this year. But with the collaboration of the University of Maine, Orono, Husson University, Thomas College, and the University of Southern Maine, along with the Maine Society of CPAs, we're hoping that you enjoy tonight's panel event. Please consider reaching out to your Career Services Center and thank them for collaborating in this effort and bringing all of these campuses together online, and as well as the firms that are participating. I want to say a personal thank you to Kate for being our Zoom host and leading us through all the technology ends of Zoom. There were several smaller firms that had hoped to participate in tonight's event, but due to a tax deadline yesterday, they were unable to participate. We also wanted to make sure that there were not too many people on the Zoom call. So if you have an interest in learning the other firms that will be recruiting through your campuses this fall, please feel free to reach out to your career services directors and ask them for a list of all the firms that will be recruiting virtually, but are looking for interns and full-time hires. I will introduce myself. I'm Carla Brannon. I am the AICPA representative for the Maine Society of CPAs, as well as the board member. And what the Maine Society of CPAs is a statewide nonprofit organization that represents around 1,000 CPAs throughout the entire state. Those CPAs are in business, education, government, and public accounting. The Maine Society of CPAs provides education resources, offers benefits to our members, serves as an advocate to CPAs and the public, and promotes the profession. Student memberships in the Maine Society of CPAs are free, and we do encourage you to join. The society membership will offer you career connections and opportunities, legislative advocacy, continuing education, news and professional updates that affect CPAs, and we also offer a lot of discounted rates on various CPA exam review, different insurances and branding that are only available to our members. I want to take a moment to let everybody know that the chat in Zoom has a link if you have not seen it. Kate has been very good about updating that. There is a link that provides a survey for students to complete. It is important that you complete that survey so that we know who is actually attending tonight's event. So at some point during tonight's event, if you take a few minutes to complete that, that would be great. So we'll start the event off. I'm going to go around and have everybody introduce themselves from the panel, and they'll talk about the positions that they have available and what their recruiting season is going to look like. So Laura, I'll start with you.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Laura Everett. I'm a principal at Alban, Randall & Bennett. We are a full-service public accounting tax advisory firm located in downtown Portland, in the heart of the Old Port. We specialize in the industries of automotive, construction, manufacturing, nonprofit, credit unions, other closely held businesses and family groups. And we are about around 50 employees, so we're considered medium-sized for the Portland area. This recruiting season, we are hiring for full-time associate accountants, and we will be hiring also for the winter tax internship and summer internship, which is typically tax and audit. And most of our staff Associate 1 hires would be to start the fall of 2021. Did I answer all the questions, Carla? What else? What did I
got it all.
Okay.
Andy, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Andy Smith. I am a tax principal at Baker Newman & Noyes. I'm located in the Portland office, but we also have offices in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Boston, Massachusetts, Woburn, Massachusetts, and Manchester, New Hampshire. We're hiring for all of those offices and for both tax internships, audit internships, summer internships, busy season internships, and full-time staff positions, both for January as well as for next summer. So BNN is a top 100 regional firm. We've got about 260 people spread amongst those 5 offices, and our expertise crosses a whole bunch of industries. So we're large enough to give you the opportunity to experience pretty much anything that you want to experience and explore, but yet small enough that, you know, everyone still is able to know each other, and you know, you're not just a number, you're definitely a person.
All right. Leah, do you want to go?
Yes, sure. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Leah from Berry Dunn, and I'm stationed in our Bangor, Maine office, and we also have offices in Manchester, New Hampshire, Portland, Maine, Phoenix, Charleston, West Virginia, and a new office right outside of Boston. And we also have many employees working remotely. The entire firm is currently working remotely, but we also, in a traditional sense, also a lot of remote employees. And our employee count is at about 500 persons right now. Our services are in your traditional audit and attest, tax, and also in consulting services. And we do internships under all 3 of those sections of the company throughout our various practice groups. The practice groups that we currently have include a lot of things, much like many larger public accounting firms. We have healthcare not-for-profit, financial services. Under financial services, that covers like employee benefit plans. We have a large commercial practice with many subgroups within that. A lot of different options for anybody, and as mentioned by the others, exposure for folks who come on as interns and new staff to be involved in a lot of work within those different areas. We are also in the top 100 in a regional firm. We've had some acquisitions that have offered some growth recently, and we're looking for internships for this coming busy season, and usually we look at the summertime at the same time, and that would be for all of the locations, our traditional locations, which are the Manchester, New Hampshire, Portland, Maine, and Bangor, Maine. And so that's something that we usually discuss with you right at the beginning, what regionally what you're looking for.
All right, Kevin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Yates. I'm a staff accountant with Barry Talbot Royer. It's a small to mid-sized firm in Falmouth, Maine. We have about 20 employees full-time. We go up to 25 during tax season. We're a full-service accounting firm. We're doing attestation, tax services, planning. We help people with lots of business acquisitions, and we can do pretty much everything all the other firms can do as well. But we're somewhat small, so it's nice and personal with everyone in our firm. We're also hiring interns for this upcoming tax season. We hire 3 every year. I think it's a wonderful internship, and I really hope to talk to some of you guys about it coming shortly.
All right, Carmen.
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's so cool that you guys are all here. I'm Carmen Ray. I'm currently a senior at Markham LLP. We are actually new to the area. We merged, and Markham came here to do tax and assurance in January of 2019. Markham is currently, last I knew, around the 15th or 16th top accounting firm in the United States. We offer as well several services. We do tax and business. If you look on our website, you'll see it as assurance, that is audit, and we also do advisory. And we do assessments for financial risk and advisory services, valuation, a little bit of forensic and litigation services as well. Markham also branches out, and we are very into technology consulting as well to other firms. We are located in several states too, several in New England, Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut. We range and go all the way to California and Florida and Ohio. We're sort of all over the map. We are currently looking to hire some interns for the busy season that's coming up for January 2021 to April. And it's the same that Laura mentioned. Full-time, when you get hired, you'll come back in the fall of 2021. We are, in most of our offices, hiring full-time staff, senior managers too, and most levels as well. So the opportunity for full-time employment is very high there too. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, Ralph.
Thank you, Carla. I'm Ralph Hendricks. I'm a principal at Whippley. Whippley merged with MacPage in August of 2018, and also merged Howe, Raleigh, and Howe in Bedford, New Hampshire in January of 2019. We have 50 offices, approximately 50 offices throughout the country, a little over 2,000 employees. Like most of the other firms, we do tax, audit, accounting, business valuation, cost segregation, pretty much all those services. And if you have questions, you can go to Whippley/careers, and you'll find some virtual events that we're putting on. We have one on the 17th on diversity, equity, inclusion. You get to talk to some professionals. And there's another one on the 22nd, which is the Whippley Way, and you get to talk about what it's like to work at the firm. Again, I've been with the firm for 38 years. I'm not an accountant. I was the CEO of MacPage, but I've been involved with recruiting for a number of years and know most of the people on the panel here.
All right, so now we'll get started on some panel questions. And we will start with Carmen. How did you become interested in public accounting?
Sure. I eventually became a business student at the University of Southern Maine, and accounting was one of those core classes that I had to take. And I realized that it's a perfect mix between the love of math that I had and the love of law. And I did an internship through USM. We were a smaller firm known as Dawson Smith, Purvis and Bassett before. That is who I interned with. And then they hired me on as full-time, part of the transition to Markham in January of 2019. And it just took off from there.
Great. How about you, Kevin? How did you become interested in public accounting?
So back about 10 years ago, I wasn't interested in public accounting. I joined first Southern Maine Community College, and my 101 professor was just extremely good at what he did, and he sold me on accounting. I really enjoyed what I was doing. It came naturally, it felt like. And so after I got out of the community college, I went to USM and pursued the bachelor's in accounting. And I still wasn't interested in becoming a full-time public accountant because that just wasn't something I ever thought about before. But I got a internship with Barry Talbot Royer, the company I'm at now. They treated me well. The work was good. I really enjoyed what I was doing. And so I just kept kind of rolling with the punches. And here I am 10 years later, happy with a good job and talking to you guys.
All right, Laura, what is the most rewarding part of being a CPA for you?
Oh, that's a pretty easy one. Thanks, Carla. I would definitely say working with clients. I've really enjoyed that aspect of public accounting. working kind of socially with them, getting to know them, helping them solve issues, and just, over time, really just been, not just doing the compliance work, but really being an advisor from the consulting standpoint for challenges in their industries, or helping them grow. And I find that to be just a very rewarding experience. And the diversity of it all. I don't think you get bored in public accounting, and that's really important to me.
Absolutely not. That's very cool.
Leah, what's the most rewarding part for you?
I originally came to accounting by way of my previous career, which included a lot of outdoor education, and education of our clients with new guidance has been an area that I've found to be something that I appreciated and enjoyed. So it follows the trend of what Laura was saying. And also I've had a lot of opportunities within our own learning and development department at the firm, for the training that we offer for interns and new staff. And as you progress through the audit group, for instance, I work as the curriculum coordinator for our advanced audit development, which is for individuals who have advanced staff and have moved into the role of being in charge on audits. And I developed the curriculum for that training for those individuals. And it's just been something that matches up the passions that I have with education, and then also the CPA level of my career and the guidance that we're responsible for being updated on all the time. So being able to share that with externally with clients and then internally to train others has been rewarding.
Andy, what is the most rewarding part of being a CPA for you?
A lot of what both Laura and Leah said, working with clients and helping clients is certainly, I think all of us in the profession, that's something that we like quite a bit. For me, taking the next step on Leah's of teaching and developing staff, I've been doing this a long time. I'm probably the oldest guy in the panel here other than Ralph. So, in 20 years, a lot of people that I've hired as interns now have risen up and are also now partners at the firm with me. And that's a really neat thing to watch happen over time. It does definitely make you feel a little older, but it's really rewarding to see people succeed and know that you've been part of that.
Ralph, what path led you to your current, to Wipfli, MacPage Wipfli, in your position there?
How far back should I go, Carla? I think this was in 1980. I was just looking, the economy was pretty bad back then. So I was just looking for any job I could get. I sold life insurance for 9 months. So I started out as the office manager with no experience at McDonald Page. And then over the years, just accumulated as many responsibilities as I could. And then became the office manager, then became the chief operating officer with MacPage, and then became the CEO a couple of years before we merged with Wipfli. But speaking about satisfaction, I think the best, and like Andy said, is seeing other people succeed when you've hired them. Probably in that you get a note from somebody that really appreciated what you hiring them, and them seeing them succeed is a lot more enjoyable than myself is succeeding, quite frankly. I get a lot more enjoyment out of that. But I think my advice for people is just accumulate as much knowledge as you can as you're moving through, and whatever opportunity comes in front of you, just take it.
That's a great suggestion. Laura, what path led you to your current firm and position?
Well, I didn't jump right into public accounting. I did do an internship when I was attending USM. I actually went into private accounting at a local car dealership and learned a lot about that industry for about 3 or 4 years. But I also felt like I felt like I needed more. I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of growth opportunity there for me at that point in time, and I was getting a little bored with what I was doing. I knew that ARB specialized in auto dealerships, so I thought I'd give that a shot, and they hired me, and I started as an associate, and I worked with auto dealers, credit unions, and nonprofits, and as I've and mostly on the A&A side. And as I've moved forward, I'm pretty heavy auto dealers and credit unions. So a little bit of an untraditional path, but I got to the right spot. And like I said before, I don't get bored here. I value lifelong learning, and I definitely get that in public accounting. And
Yeah,
so,
lifelong learning is definitely key here.
that was my path.
All right, Leah, what has been your biggest struggle as your career has progressed?
I think one of the areas that I struggled was finding a good balance between taking on everything that somebody gave me for an opportunity, not the work that came my way, because that's, for scheduling, we take what we have that comes our way and you work on your jobs. But for opportunities in other areas of the firm, like business development or learning and development, all those different areas, finding the ones that matched up best with my personality. Had a struggle to make sure that I didn't take on too many responsibilities, so that I wasn't stretching myself too thin across all of those various responsibilities and taking away from what I could offer my clients during our regular audit time for what I had a commitment to them for our engagements together. I think what I've relied on most in order to overcome that struggle was just matching up with some good mentors, and either in the official capacity within that part of our company in the official mentor program, or just unofficial mentors that I worked with and seemed to match up really well with, to help me read through the opportunities to figure out whether it was going to be good for me in the long run, or if it was something I should pass on and allow somebody else to take on the opportunity. So that's one thing that I personally struggled with. I'm a yes person. I like to say yes if somebody needs help with something, but I needed to be recognizing when it wasn't going to be valuing all the parties if I got involved, if it was going to make it so that I couldn't commit my 100% to the task.
Carla, can't hear you.
Tells you that. Carmen, what has been one of your biggest struggles in your career?
I would say, especially as an intern, not being as afraid to ask questions. Working the job is a lot different than the classroom. It's almost brand new, and asking questions is a good thing. And you learn when you ask questions as well. Also, just another key point, when you get answers to your questions, remember those answers. Don't be asking the same question over and over and over. That can get, you can be a nuisance a little bit that way. But I got stuck a lot sometimes, and rather than stay stuck, whether it's another intern you feel more comfortable talking to, a peer, or if you can just find a couple people in your office that you're comfortable asking those questions to, don't be afraid to speak up.
And Kevin, do you have anything to add to that?
So I kind of agreed with Leah with the saying no when appropriate. I also like to say, oh, Kevin, can you do this? Yes, I can. And then the work just piles up until you have too much work on your plate. So that was one thing that I struggled to get a hold of, but I believe I'm doing it better now with recognizing, I already have this much work on my plate, so I have to ask you to delegate this to someone else. But I guess another thing was I also, my first year being hired on, I had my first kid, and then a year and a half later, I had my second kid. So finding time to do my own career enhancement, such as going to get a master's degree, finding time for that has been a little more difficult because it's, you know, you're working full time, have 2 kids and a family. So I would say finding time to do everything that you want can sometimes be a struggle. You have to prioritize what you want first.
Those are great. All right. Let's go with Andy. What's your approach to understanding and tackling a new concept or technical problem?
Oh, that's not a very fun one, Carla. No, just
I
kidding.
know, I'm sorry.
No, but it's a good one because, you know, it's something that we have to deal with a lot, and several people have mentioned it, that that's one of the things they love about the job is you are constantly learning. So you constantly are facing, you know, new problems that you've never dealt with before, and that's part of where, you know, experience comes in, of learning, like, okay, how do I tackle this? What's the best way to approach it? And I think it's one of the things that new hires, you know, struggle with, because they're used to being able to kind of go to a textbook and find the answer, and everything's a little more black and white than it is out there in the real world. You know, I like to tell people all the time, we live in the gray. You know, there's never the problem that a client presents you is never the exact same fact pattern that you can find in the IRS code or in a case or anything like that. So we're constantly left to interpret, at least on the tax side of things, where their fact pattern lines up and how to handle it and how to go forward. I can tell you that one of the things I like most about my job, and one of the things I like most about working at Baker Newman and Noyes, is, you know, we have a group of really smart people there, and we work in a really collaborative environment. So when we're faced with something new, whether it's a new tax legislation like the PPP loan, or whether it's a particularly challenging client issue, you know, it's not at all uncommon for like 4 or 5 of us to sit down and brainstorm, okay, what's the best way to handle this? How is this going to impact our clients? How can we get them the best outcome? So, you know, maybe it's a slight cop-out, but my favorite way of tackling a new issue is getting a bunch of people's ideas and trying to figure it out that way, and figuring out, you know, collectively what the best way forward is.
Thank you. Let's see. Leah, what does work-life balance mean to you, and how do you achieve it?
A little different in the world of COVID. I can tell you that because during this section, since my son just came back inside, you might hear him upstairs yelling. Not yelling in a mean way, just he has a loud voice because he's 3. It has been a little bit different and has required us to be like a little bit more intentional about it. But I think that in everybody's life, being intentional about balancing your work and your home life or your personal life outside of work is the intentionality is exactly what you have to get to. I have kept the exact same hours that I do in the office at home, which means that sometimes, yes, I work late, but it means that I've already cleared that with my spouse because he also has a full-time job, and we have to balance out, you know, if one of us wants to work later, that we're not infringing on a plan that the other person has. So balancing out our hours that way. I have also kind of benefited because during the daytime at home, since I'm the only one who's physically working here, my husband is a recruiter in the military, and so he's physically at the Air Force Base. I can choose to take a lunch break and go outside and take a walk, which I would probably try to do when I'm at the office too. So continuing to do those types of things to fill in the day with stuff that's just not work related, but it gives us a little bit of a break and a brain break, and you get to enjoy the summertime a little bit. Other ways is that, pulling off of the other question that I was discussing about overcoming my desire to want to be involved with every project or every new thing that we're doing, and finding the balance of not taking on all of those extras and those responsibilities. I've chosen to not be involved with some things that the firm is doing that are great opportunities because it wasn't a good fit, and it took me away from what I'm choosing to do with having more of that family time as I have a young child, and balance that out with my spouse so it's not too much of a burden on either of us in the hours of the day. So it just have probably made it a personal effort, which I think I found from the beginning. Everybody has a personal requirement to figure out how to do that intentionally, and that's what I always encourage the new interns and staff to figure out what works for them. It's not a cookie cutter approach, and you have to kind of figure out what you need to do for yourself. Day to day, it can change too. So.
All right. Oh, you're going to hear my dog barking. Kevin, you talked about having 2 young children. How are you balancing work and life at home?
Well, my employer has helped significantly with that by being flexible with allowing me to work on my own schedule. I mean, as long as I get the hours in, they're not too specific about please be here at 9:10 on the dot. So I'm able to see my kids in the morning and drop them off, get into work as late as I need to. I come home and see them for dinner. And if I need to make up hours, I can either do it over the weekend or late at night when they're sleeping. Really, it's just about scheduling yourself, sticking on that schedule, and not cheating it. It's a lot easier to keep that schedule when you're working at home because you don't have your employers over your shoulder breathing down your neck, which doesn't really happen in the accounting world. We're all we have a lot of autonomy, but still, if you're not physically at the office, it's a lot easier to try to cheat those hours. But as long as you make a schedule, stick to it, there is no issue.
Thank you. Ralph, what is one piece of advice you would give to students?
I guess this COVID thing's really made me adjust how I have to work. And I don't go into the office ever. So I've listened to a lot of podcasts and a lot of books. And there's a podcast I recommend people to listen to. It's Robin Sharma, and he wrote a book called The 5 a.m. Club. And it's a book about talking about how to deal with your internal mind, your heart, your soul, and how you work and everything. And I wish I read the book 30 years ago, but it really gets you focused and dealing with the things that are really important. So my advice is to get the book called 5 a.m. Club. And, it takes a long time to learn all these things, but I would recommend that. It'd be tough for a student because you're going to adjust how you plan, but if you're going into a professional life, you have to adjust. You can't get up late in the morning. You've got to really schedule and focus your time.
Thank you. Laura, what can a candidate do to stand out on their resume or through the interview process?
I think that I've always enjoyed when, I'm out interviewing and somebody has done their homework to get to know a little bit more about ARB. So I feel like I'm having a real good involved conversation, that I'm not just one of the mix. I know that a student wants to feel, focused on an important, and it always helps when I feel like they've done some homework. I think the other thing is, I've noticed over the years in recruiting, sometimes, students they'll try to put on the accounting experiences they've had, maybe just list an internship or something else for bookkeeping or whatever, and that's all great. But I've found that sometimes students will think that's the only thing that I want to see, and I encourage students to put on their past experiences, that show other skills, so it might be working in a busy restaurant or a call center or something like that, that gives me a little bit more insight into, soft skills, as well as those technical skills. So those are a couple of things that I, kind of resume and prep for the upcoming recruiting season. A couple pieces of advice.
Carmen, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. I agree along the lines of what Laura was saying. The homework beforehand, I think, is very important. The firms are definitely going to be asking you questions to try to get to know you better, to see if you are what they are looking for. But I think it's just as important for you to figure out if they are also what you were looking for as an intern, if they have the same values and same, and like, kind of like if the firm was a personality, do your personalities match up? And that will also make you more interested and more eager to work for them in the long run. And when you're in that interview, don't think of it necessarily as an interview, but more just a conversation. And you're both just trying to get to know each other and see if you both are a good fit for each other.
That's great. All right, Kevin. Let's see. Can you describe your firm's culture and what aspects of your job or the company that make work enjoyable?
Sure thing. I think that's one of the things that our firm is really great with is their culture. It's why I stayed on. I didn't even want to be public accounting to begin with. I took the internship to get credits, but I enjoyed the firm's culture so much that I stayed at the firm. What's great about it is there's only about 20 people, so you know all 20 people because you're seeing them and talking to them every single day. We're very team oriented. We have a bookkeeping team, an audit team, a tax team, and they all have their own separate supervisors, but we also meet together as a staff about once a month, once every other month, to really reinforce the team atmosphere. We're very collaborative. We encourage people to reach out for help. We have what's called the 15-minute rule. If you can't figure it out on your own in 15 minutes, you go ask someone because someone else has probably done it before, and there's no sense in spinning your wheels and getting frustrated. So I think that team environment and real support and having the resources you need to get help on your issue is really great about our firm. But I also have to mention the firm president, Mike Royer, and the tax partner, Katie Zenko. They are extremely nice people. I've worked under many leaders in my life. I was in the military. I had dozens of leaders in the military, and I can say that these two are two of the best people I've worked with. So that's a huge part of the firm's culture as they make up 10% of the employees.
Thanks. Andy, do you want to talk a little bit about the culture at BNN?
Sure. I think culture is one of those things where it's really hard to describe because it's just kind of the feeling that you get when you go into an office, and certainly that's one of the things that we've talked a lot about in our recruiting meetings is how do we portray our culture to students virtually, because so much of what we've relied on before is open houses and stuff like that. And I always tell people, go to as many interviews, as many open houses with all the firms that you can, because there'll be this gut feeling just that you get from the people that you meet, that one of them will probably kind of stick out as that's where I belong. That's the good fit for me. And there's a lot of great firms here in Maine, and most of them are represented here tonight, so that's a great thing. The feeling that I guess that I would say that I feel like BNN projects is kind of a feeling of caring. We care about our clients, we care about our coworkers, we care about our coworkers' families. It's a really tight-knit group. You work together a lot, especially during busy season. A lot of times you see your coworkers more than you may see your significant other or your kids, which is somewhat depressing, but you grow these relationships with folks. And that's one of the things that's really been difficult during COVID is you realize how much you just miss seeing these people on a day-to-day basis, even if you don't work with them. Folks, to just talk about like you know, the Celtics game last night or what they did this weekend and stuff like that. And those personal connections are a lot more difficult to maintain during COVID. And so I think we're all kind of having a little bit of culture withdrawal right now.
Yeah. Leah, do you want to talk about the culture?
I think it has been really hard where we're trying to have all these fun collaborative meetings as and continue the things that we do as a group, where we often have you know, after hours events where we get together in either smaller groups, or as an office in Bangor especially, we'll get together for events. But we've carried some of that through to Zoom meetings, but it doesn't have the same effect, and it's hard to get excited. One of the things that we're doing right now in the financial services industry group, we're doing a bingo, which you can't see because I have the screen up, but we're doing a bingo thing where if you can meet all of these fun things, such as hearing somebody say, let's circle back to that in a meeting, or having somebody say, can everybody here see my screen? Because we're having to do so much stuff through Zoom. Just trying to kind of lighten the atmosphere of our regular workday by participating in stuff like that, and still having some of those group events that happen. One of the positive things that's happened under COVID is that we've had a lot more collaboration amongst the individuals at other offices within our groups, because we are all in the same environment where we're all in a Zoom meeting, whereas we used to all be in our separate offices, or people are calling in from the road, or we're out on a client. Now everyone is kind of normalized. We're all in the same standard environment. We're working in it has brought people together a little bit more within our industry groups, where we're having to kind of figure out as a group how we're addressing our engagements with our clients, and how we're going to approach the new remote work environment in some of these challenging upcoming weeks as we move into our traditional busy season, you know, interim audit work. One of the things that has continued is that I have seen that our leadership has been very gracious in the way that they have implemented continuous communication with us, that they, you know, they already modeled that before we moved to a remote work environment, but they've continued it, and they've kind of lightened it up a little bit, where you know, maybe they're not sending crucial firm updates all the time, but they're just reaching out and reminding us of some interesting things that are happening in a lighthearted way throughout the world. And also just trying to get everybody to recognize that they want to, as a firm, allow our culture and our offerings through human resources and that type of thing to be supporting people wherever we are. So, you know, one week I might be doing totally fine, but the next week I might feel like I want to take on some of the offerings that human resources has for new stress relief ideas, or different meetings that they're hosting, just drop in coffee chats that they're offering and that kind of stuff. So I would say that, if anything, what I've appreciated about our culture right now has been that they've adjusted wholly to our new remote environment in a way that hasn't really compromised what they wanted to do, which was just to show everybody that they're supportive of us, which was really crucial when we just went through our remote summer internship program with all of the folks that we had coming in, a few dozen interns that were wholly remote, and you know, we may never have met any of them face to face, and may not, depending on whether they're coming to work full time. But I think that they really worked to push through who we are as a firm and what support we offer to them, even in that temporary work environment.
All right, I'm going to just do one last reminder for those students that are on this Zoom call that have not completed the student survey, to make sure that they pull up that link through the chat field and complete that survey. Laura, what are the current work arrangements in your office, and what are the plans for student interns in the winter months?
So currently our office is open. I think one of the reasons we're able to do that is our size. Although we are open, we are not all back 100%. So we still have individuals working remotely. And like, for instance, myself, I do a few days a week where I come in, I try to match it up with different meetings or work that I have. And then while in the office, you know, it's all about social distancing. You know, we have some, you know, arrows on the floor about the direction of the office you can walk in, and, you know, try to be very respectful and follow CDC guidelines, but just be respectful with each other, wearing masks and stuff like that. So, so we're not 100% back, but if you're an employee and you're interested in working in the office and are willing to follow the guidelines, then we are open. And then I think it's sort of a wait and see thing for the upcoming internship for tax season. You know, we all don't know what this is going to look like, but we have the ability to have our interns work remote, and it could be also on site, depending on the environment and how things are going COVID wise.
Ralph, what are the current work arrangements in your office, and what does the winter internship look like?
Yeah, so currently, I would say 90% of our people are working remotely. So a few of our administrative people are probably in the office. Maybe the head of the region is in the office, but when we shut down on a Friday, everybody in the firm, we had 2,000 people working on Monday, and there hasn't been a glitch since. We're hoping to have the internships in the office. I think gradually more and more people will go into the office, but most of our auditors are in the field anyway. Tax people will probably eventually all go in there, but a lot of our consultants are on the road. So I think as Leah was saying, I think we're going to wait and see. We're hoping to have it. I think it's better if it is in the office, but we're absolutely going to be able to do our internships remotely, and we have the right training and the technology tools to handle it. So I don't think that will be an issue.
Let's see, Andy, how has the use of technology changed the way you do your job over the past few years, even prior to this pandemic?
Yeah, well, certainly the pandemic has changed it a lot, but you know, in the time, that's probably the biggest change that I've seen over the course of my career is just the reliance on technology. I mean, when I started, we had the old, you know, actual binders, and we're using paper and ledger sheets and all that stuff. And now everything is paperless. You know, the smartphone is probably the biggest single game-changing item to anyone, both good and bad. You know, it's great that it certainly creates a great deal of flexibility and that you can do your job from anywhere. But that can also be a bad thing. You know, clients certainly almost have the expectation nowadays that you are available 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. You know, clients will be texting you or emailing you in the middle of the night. And so one of the things that we try to teach everyone is, you know, technology is great, but create boundaries with it. So, you know, if you're responding to your clients at 1 a.m, because you're working late, you know, that's opening the expectation up that they're going to expect that it's okay to email you at midnight and get an answer back and stuff like that. So you have to be really careful about that, or giving out your cell phone. But, you know, and COVID has kind of really stretched those boundaries, because most of us now, and my office phone is now essentially my cell phone. So all my clients now have my cell phone, where it used to be a pretty limited number that I knew that wouldn't abuse it. So that's been the biggest change, I would say, by far for me.
Carmen, do you have any advice for candidates who will be interviewing virtually?
Probably just what I said before. Just, I hope, you know, you can remain more comfortable, since you'll probably be in the setting of your own home. Hopefully you can just be more relaxed, but just have a conversation with whoever you are interviewing with. Definitely do your research beforehand, so you can come prepared with some really good questions, and you can truly be interested in what you are actually applying for. That is key as well, is to show interest in who you're going to be with. And it also helps you too, because this can be a very tough job. And if you are not interested, and if you don't have some personal achievement that you're trying to get to, it can be very hard to keep going.
And Kevin, what do you do in your free time outside of the office?
I hang out with my family. We just got a puppy, so we're going to start puppy training classes on Wednesdays. My son is getting into sports, even though COVID has shut that down pretty well, but he still likes to play soccer with his cousins. We do swimming lessons, so we go kayaking, hiking, lots of outdoor stuff, but we have been staying indoors too. My kids love movies and Disney, so just lots of family time. I used to hang out with my friends a lot, but ever since having 2 young kids, it's more about hanging out with them.
Yeah. Laura, what about you? What do you do free time outside of the office?
Oh, definitely family. But you know, my oldest son has got me into soccer, so I've been become a new Premier League fan. So I've been enjoying getting really involved in that, and just started actually reading a book called The Club, which is all about the history of the Premier League. And so a little geeky, you know, reading books about soccer, but I'm enjoying it. And yeah, so family's kind of the obvious one. You really gotta balance that time between work and family, and so.
What about you, Ralph?
Well, I used to go to a lot of the Sea Dogs games and the Red Claws games, but the last 9 months have been tough. I help my daughter coach softball. I volunteer on a lot of boards. I like to golf, and I like to be outside and being very active.
Yeah.
So sitting inside on a computer, not so much. So, I like being out in the community.
Great. Leah, what do you do in your free time?
Well, my free time lately has not been my free time for myself, mostly spending time with my son, because he's still, we have a large property here and he can't really go outside by himself. So I've gotten into a lot of playing in the sand pit, playing at the play set, going for a walk to the frog pond, that kind of stuff. But it is good, like you said, Ralph, of wanting to be outside more. I enjoy being outside, and so he's actually been able to enforce that for me, just encouraging me to get out and take advantage of the really good weather that we have this summertime. Other than that, and spending time with him and with my husband, I'm a big reader. I don't discriminate, except for I don't really like horror or romance novels, but everything else, fiction or nonfiction, I like a lot of that. And that's usually how I kind of decompress from my busy work time. Also enjoy doing cycling and backpacking, but neither of those has happened a lot this summer because some of the popular areas for different things, you know, a little restricted, and we've been trying to stay away from the areas where we didn't want to get into high population. So just had to adjust a little bit, spend a little bit more time at home than expected, but when you pay for a home, I guess you want to be there sometimes, so I don't mind.
Great. Andy, what do you do in your free time?
I spend a lot of time coaching, which is really fun, something I love doing. I have 2 kids with very diverse interests. So my daughter is a sports nut, and I end up coaching most of her games and sporting events. And then my son is like a junior farmer, and we have goats and chickens and ducks and all kinds of stuff like that. He's very involved with 4-H. So I spend a lot of time farming, which was definitely not something that I had planned upon. But you take up whatever interest you kids take up. So, you know, now I'm like part veterinary, part contractor to build all these various animal shelters and everything else that he decides he needs. So definitely interesting. It can make for some fun Zoom calls. I occasionally will do a Zoom call from the barn. People love seeing the baby goats or the ducks or whoever's running around. So it can liven things up a little bit.
Awesome. Carmen, what about you?
Currently there is no free time. I'm currently studying for the CPA exam, so any available free time I have is Just the CPA. It's so when that's done, I can't wait to get back to hiking. I love to hike. I can't wait to be able to read whatever I want when I'm not studying for the CPA exam, and friends and family, especially family, especially. It's about back to that work-life balance in your free time.
Good luck, Carmen.
Thank you.
The rest of us are all getting PTSD just hearing you talk about it.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's actually a question that I saw on this questionnaire, Carla. What is the one thing you wish you had known before you became a senior or a manager or a partner? Is once your foot is in the door in a firm and you start to progress in your career and move up, you get extremely busy. You get very busy at work. You will be very tired. So once you know that that CPA is next, get it done as soon as possible, because it just gets harder the more you do this.
That's a great suggestion. So we just have a couple minutes left. Does anybody have anything that they would like? We can kind of go around if you have something quick. We do only have 2 minutes left. But if there's any last minute comments that you would like to make to the students on the call, Laura, I'll start with you if you have anything that you'd like to just end the evening with.
Sure. Besides, thank you for having us. Pretty simple. A lot of great firms out there. Do your homework. Just work to find the right fit for you. Like Andy said, you'll feel it.
Great. How about you, Ralph?
Yeah, I would just say check out Whipley/careers, September 17th and 22nd. We get 2 events. But just my advice is just to be yourself. Don't try to be anybody different.
Great. Leah?
Kind of tracking with what Ralph said, Barry Dunn's also hosting a couple events coming up, virtual student night open houses, because traditionally we do this at our Bangor and Portland and Manchester offices. Info for those is on the website. You may already have the information if you would traditionally have been attending through your career services. They usually manage that. But if you need it, you can reach out to me to get that, or check out Barry Dunn website. And it's 2 one-hour sessions, really diverse group of people from around the firm that are going to attend for either night, different groups. So definitely try to join in on that, even if it's just to listen in if you're not really sure. It's a great way to get in touch with people. Even though we're not really having any of those in-person events, if you want to have a one-on-one conversation with anybody, that could be a cool opportunity for you to identify somebody that you want to reach out to. I know that most of the people that I work with from the recruiting aspect would love to have a one-on-one conversation outside of a formal interview process, and could give you some, tips. I don't do the interviewing, but I'm always up for talking with people. I talk with a lot of people at Husson specifically because I work there as an adjunct professor too. So if anybody wants to reach out in advance, contact me or contact somebody else that you know at the firm, and we'd be happy to talk with you and do that informal introduction to the firm.
Great. Carmen?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines as Laura. Right off what Laura said, there's several firms out there. They're all great. You can't go wrong, especially when you're first starting out and you're trying to get your feet wet. You can't make a wrong decision when choosing a firm. The experience is great all around. The work is excellent all around. Use your resources like you are through your school and everyone that's willing to help you, and you'll end up on the right path.
Great. Andy?
My biggest thing would be, do internships. Internships are invaluable. I think a lot of you probably are already interested in them, but you cannot replace that kind of experience. And it's a great way to try on a firm, try on a career, figure out whether you like public or private, whether you like audit or tax, or whether you like doing both. Just all great stuff. Thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I really appreciate the Maine Society for putting this together. Awesome.
Great. And how about you, Kevin?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. This was a wonderful event. I look forward to maybe speaking with some of these students in the future. I think you guys made an excellent career choice. Accountants are busier than ever, and you get to in this pandemic environment. So I think you made a great choice. Please apply to our internship at Barry Talbot Royer. We do need 3 interns this year, and I highly recommend doing internships before applying full-time, because it gives opportunity to get to know the firm before you commit. a career is a lot like a marriage, and you don't just want a blind marriage. You want to really fit the firm before you commit full time.
Thank you. Thank you to all the students that participated this evening. Thank you to all the panelists, as well as Kate as our Zoom host. Again, feel free to reach out to your contacts at each school. The career services departments will be able to connect you with any of the panelists or any of the recruiters at these firms. If you have any additional questions, let us know. We wish you the best of luck during the recruiting season, and don't be afraid to reach out if you have any additional questions. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.